Hi everyone, this is Matt at TSP Calc. This is going to be a how-to video on how to use the seasonal calculator, which is the simplest of the three seasonal tools. So when you go to tspcalc.com, the seasonal calculator is the default page. It's also located under the seasonal tab, seasonal calculator, and this is it. For the time being, we're going to ignore this box on the right, which is called the seasonal strategies table. That is not applied to the beginning of the discussion. Instead, we're going to be looking at what's on the left side here, which is essentially the seasonal calculator. And you'll notice on here that there's no input for a year. There are the 12 months, but there's no information about the year, and that's because a seasonal strategy, by definition, makes the same exact trades every year. So therefore, we can't tell it to only calculate a certain year or only calculate this year. Instead, a strategy is just a set of 12 months of trades, and the TSP has something called an IFT, which stands for interfund transfer, and that really just means trade. So in the real world, in the stock market, when you trade, you sell a fund, you buy another one. That's what an interfund transfer is. And in the thrift savings plan, we have 5 core funds to choose from, just the G, F, C, S, and I funds. We're not going to talk about the L funds. They don't apply to seasonal tendencies whatsoever. They're not a part of the calculator, so just those 5 core funds, G, F, C, S, and I. So the TSP also has a 2 IFT rule, and that rule stipulates that you can make a trade to any fund you want once a month, and then you can make a second trade to any fund you want. And then that's it. That is it for what they call unlimited trades. Unlimited meaning you can move them to any fund you want. The third, fourth, fifth, sixth trades, yes, you can make that many, but they can all only go to the G fund. That's your only option. So therefore, if your second trade of the month is to the G fund, then you're done. You can't make another trade because you have to move toward the G fund. And because the seasonal calculator assumes that you have to move 100% of your money every time you make an IFT, you cannot make multiple successive transfers to the G fund. Again, we assume, for the purpose of this calculator, you don't have to do this in your real account if you don't want to, but the returns quoted on this calculator assume that you move 100% of your money from one fund to the next on these scheduled trades. So therefore, you can go to the C fund as your second trade, and your third trade could be to the G fund. And then you're done, because all of your money at that point would be in the G fund. Okay, so like I said, a strategy is a set of 3 trades per month, and there's 12 months, and a strategy has to be cyclical, which means that whatever fund you end December in can't be the same fund that is your first trade here. For example, let me show you. So in December, let's do a trade to S fund on the first. That's fine. This is going to throw an error, and it's going to say in January you cannot IFT to the S fund because you're already in the S fund. And what happened there is we traded to the S fund in December, right? Well, we didn't make any trades after that, so on December 31st we were still in the S fund. And since a seasonal strategy is executed the same way every year, the fund that you end December in, which is the S fund in this case, is also the fund that you start January in. So that means that January's first trading day, you were already in the S fund, and then you tried to make another trade into the S fund. So that's a redundant trade, and that's why it throws an error. So if we change this to any other fund, well, see, okay, now if we say C fund, we have the same problem, because the previous trade before this, all these months have no trades, okay? So that was the only trade before this one in December. So if you trade to the C fund on the second trading day of January, and you make no other trades, then you're still in the C fund when December starts. So let's just choose a different fund. All right, so now it went through. This is now a valid strategy. And how this works is every time you click this submit button, it sends this table, this 12 months worth of trades to TSP Calc's server. And TSP Calc takes this unique combination of trades and it logs it in the database, and it spits out a number. So if you scroll down here, you'll see that this strategy's number is right here. It's also here in the table. So this strategy ID is just a way to pull this strategy back up. Again, a strategy is defined as any unique combination of all of these inputs here. So if we input something that's already in the database, then the server will just pull that strategy number. It won't duplicate it. And if it's not in the database, then it will create a new number for it. All right. So let's go ahead and scroll down to the results table. So this table is showing you what your theoretical returns had been if you had executed these trades exactly the same way every year. And our data starts in 2004 because that's when the Thrift Savings Plan started publishing daily prices, and those are needed for TSP Calc to run. Okay, so you can change the start year and end year here, and what that does is it just changes this table. So let's just look at 2 years to start with. So in January 2004, if you had made these trades exactly as prescribed, you would have returned 1.47%. Like it says here, all values are in percentages. I took the percent sign off just for readability. If it's negative, that will be specified. Otherwise, it's a positive percent gain. Okay, so 1.47% growth in January 2004 if you had executed this strategy exactly how you said, which is so you would have started January in the F fund because you end December in F fund. So F fund, and then you trade to S fund on the first trading day, and then you traded to C on the second trading day. And I'm stipulating trading days, which basically means business day. If you see here, your options are in trading days. That's a business day, basically meaning we're going to skip over weekends and holidays, because if we try to trade on the first calendar day of every year, we're going to run into holidays and weekends. In fact, January 1st is always a holiday. So therefore, the first trading day of January is always January 2nd or later if January 2nd happens to fall on a weekend. So the first trading day is the first business day. Okay? So if we had done these trades, S fund on the first trading day, C fund on the second trading day, back in 2004, we would have returned 1.47% in January. Okay, and the same goes for February through December. In this strategy, we didn't make any trades, so basically what we're looking at is a February through November is just going to be buy and hold C fund, because C fund was the last trade we made. So we're in C fund come February, we're in C fund all the way through until December. So what we're looking at here, these months, February through November, is actually just C fund buy and hold in this unique strategy. Okay, so that's how that works. And then we have this mean column. Mean is just another word for average. So basically 1.47 plus a negative 2.19 averaged out is a negative 0.36%. Okay, that's the average. And if you change this and then you include 2006, then the average changes. The average now includes these 3 years worth of January data, and it comes out to 0.30. So that works the same way for each month, and it also works the same way. This is the annual column over here. So this strategy number 88318, which is again is defined by these trades here, that strategy returned 9.54% in 2004, and it returned 11.84% in 2006, and that 3-year average, aka the mean, was 9.64%. Okay, What is standard deviation? Well, if you don't remember from high school math, standard deviation is a measure of consistency. So what this number is telling you is how close these data points are, these three data points are to the mean. So for example, -2 is pretty far away from 0.3, and 1.4 and 1.6 are also pretty far away from the mean. So the standard deviation, is relatively high. It's 1.77%. A lower standard deviation means that the data points are closer together. That is, they are more consistent. For example, in February here, the standard deviation is lower. That means that February's data points are closer together than January's data points. January's data points are more spread out because it has a higher standard deviation. Okay, that's what standard deviation means. Normally, lower is better because it indicates more consistent data. Over here, on the annual column, it means the same thing. So these three data points average out to 9.64% with a standard deviation of 1.76. So you can use this when you're comparing two strategies together to measure which one is more consistent with its data points. Okay, what else do we have here? Number of IFTs. Again, an IFT, interfund transfer, is just another word for trade. This strategy only does 3 trades per year. And here's how much time it spends in each of the 5 funds. It spends about 8% of its time in F. Now these numbers are rounded, okay? 8 plus 91 doesn't equal 100. I realize that. They're just rounded. It's a quick glance. This number over here is not rounded though. Time in stocks. So the C, the S, and the I fund are all stocks. So those 3 are added together. This strategy spends 91.57% of its time every year invested in stocks, and the other 8.43% of its time it's invested in the F fund. Okay? And so this year range, you can change it, and all of these statistics will change right on the fly. Notice that's a different mean with a different standard of deviation. This is different, that's different, and CAGR, total compound return, time in stocks are all different as well. The number of IFTs and time in funds is exactly the same though. All right, so that's the results table. Moving down, here's a graph. And the most important thing to note about the graph is that you can change the time window up here in the left corner, okay? It looks like it's defaulting to 1 year. So if I hover over it, it'll tell me as of Monday, September 30th, 2019, strategy 88318 was up 21.73% compared to this start date, compared to December 20th of 2018. So at the very end here, I see 27.88% year over year. Click on year to date. Then you see that year to date we're at 27.58%. Okay, so 27 point, I'm sorry, clicking on year to date, 27.58%, and that's year to date, right? Well, what's with the 0 here? Well, actually that's 2011. Remember, we got to drop that down, go to 2019, and look, there's 27.58 for 2019, and this data is as current as possible, which at the moment is December 20th. So this number will update tomorrow once we get new share prices. Look at that, 27.58% again. So that's the graph. Year to date is helpful. All is helpful. That'll go all the way back to 2004. So you can look, that's January 1st. Well, technically December 29th, 2003, but that was the very last trading day of 2003, so it's equivalent to January 1st. So since then, got a total compound return of 235.5%. Well, if you scroll up here, look at that. Total compound return 233.8. I must not have been on the very last point. Yeah, I can't find the very last point. That's just the resolution of the graph. But basically 235, 233, this is the more accurate number because this is all the way through December 20th. This one looks like the latest I can get on resolution is December 16th. So 233.8% total since 2004. And if I wanted to know just the 2010 to current stats, I just change the start year and it updates total compound return of 232%. So that's the results table, that's the graph. Trading calendar. Okay, so this tells you exactly when to execute trades per this. Now remember we said earlier, this is actually based in trading days, which is business days. So the first trading day of January is going to be a different date every year, depending on if January 1st and 2nd fall on a weekend. The first trading day could be as late as the 4th of January. So if January 1st, which is a national holiday, falls on a Friday, then Saturday is a weekend and Sunday is a weekend. So the 4th of January would actually be the first business day, aka the first trading day. Therefore, the calendar for executing these trades, the specific dates change every year, which is why we have these calendars. You see, right now it's showing me 2019 because we're still in 2019, but if you scroll down, it's also showing 2020's calendar. Okay, so next year, January 1st will be a holiday, and therefore the first trading day is January 2nd, 2020, and that first trade you're going to be doing is from the F fund. Notice the colors are down here. The F fund, from the F fund to blue, which is the S fund. That's your very first trade. And then, this is kind of smashed in, but your very next trade is on the very next day. So you're only going to spend one day in that blue fund. Again, that's the S fund. And then on the second trading day of January, which for 2020 is January 3rd, you're going to execute another IFT and you're going to go into the C fund. And IFTs, it says it down here, the deadline is noon Eastern time. So if you put your IFT in on January 3rd, it has to be in before noon Eastern time, and you're going to indicate you're moving to C fund. So if you get it in before that deadline, then how the TSP calculates it is it will be effective at close of business. So you will spend the entire day in the S fund, and then at close of business, they'll sell all of your shares of S fund and they will buy you C fund. So you spend no time in C fund on Friday, but come Monday morning when market opens, all of your money is in the C fund. Okay? The trading calendar is a very useful tool. You can use this print link right here. If you print from the browser, these colors aren't going to show up. You have to use this print link right here in the corner for the colors to show up. So, scrolling back up to the top, I just want to briefly touch on something else. So, of course, you can choose different trading days of the month, but there are other options as well, and it has to do with holidays. So, MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, is a holiday, right? And I added these functions in just because holidays tend to have an impact on the stock market. So, this is just a way for you to trade one day before Martin Luther King Day, or 2 trading days before Martin Luther King Day, or 3 days before Martin Luther King Day. Basically, these 6 handles exist so that you can study the seasonal impact that holidays have. So this one, notice the 2 comes after MLK. That is a trade that occurs 2 trading days after MLK. And this one is 2 before MLK. Makes sense? The same thing for end of month. End of month is actually right there. If you select that, that will always be the very last day of the month, whereas 1 EOM is 1 day before that, 2 EOM is 2 before that, and 3 is 3 before that. Okay, so that's how those work. All right, so let's take a look at benchmarks. So say I want to benchmark my strategy against the C, the S, and the I funds. Just buy and hold. I select those three boxes and click submit. And how benchmarks work is the first place you're going to notice them is on this results table. So we still have the strategy that I inputted in the seasonal calculator, 88,318, and then we have C, S, and I. And at first, they only show the annual columns, but I can come down here and I can say, okay, strategy 88,318 has averaged 9.14% over 15 years, whereas the C fund has averaged 10.5. The S fund has averaged 11.6, and the I fund has averaged 7.88%. Okay, so it looks like this strategy hasn't done as well as the C and the I, but excuse me, as well as C and S, but it has done better than the I fund. Now, here's another thing I want to show you. If you click on these benchmark columns, it'll show you the monthly returns. Right now, we're looking at the monthly table for 88,318. If you click on this column, then it will show you the monthly returns for C fund buy and hold. And if you click on this one, then it'll show you the same thing for S fund buy and hold. And if you click on this, then there's I fund buy and hold statistics. Okay. Another important point is if you're looking at this on a cell phone, it's not going to show you the monthly data at all because the screen is simply too small. But hot tip, if you rotate your phone to landscape mode, these will automatically appear. All of the monthly data will appear just because there's more space to show the data. So use TSP Calc in your landscape mode when you're on a cell phone. Okay? And then down at the graphs, again, it's showing all four. And this is a neat trick. You can hover your mouse over that. So that's the strategy that we made. And there's the C fund and the S fund and the I fund. Okay? And it's showing 1 year by default. Here's a year to date. And then here's all, which is clear back to January 1st, 2004. And as you can see, the S fund has won handedly. The C fund has done pretty well as well, and our strategy has returned 235%, which is considerably better than the I fund. That's how graphs work, and the graphs also have a print link right here. The trading calendar is only going to show up for the first strategy in the table, which again is the strategy that's plugged into here. So if at any point in time you decide that you want to print out one of these things that you're benchmarking against, you have to take that number and plug it in right here. So for example, say I want to look at 86104. Say I was talking at work or I saw in the Facebook group that somebody's following 86104 and I want to see what that's all about. Well, you use this go-to strategy option and you can look up 86104. Okay, so what it's done is it's preloaded the calculator with 86104. My benchmarks have stayed the same. So now, instead of 88,318, we're actually looking at strategy MAT. This is one of the very few strategies that has a name associated with it. That happens to be my name, and it's just a coincidence that I'm making a video talking about the strategy that I have named after myself. Just pure coincidence. But anyway, my strategy, 86104, it's called MAT here. But you can see now, that's a lot better than the one we were looking at before. Now we're averaging 16.31% since 2009 compared to the C fund's 10.5 and the S's 11.6. And down here, the trading calendar is different. This is the trading calendar specifically for 86104 for this strategy. Again, this is 2019. Scroll down a little bit further. There's 2020. Okay, and so these three are buy and hold. Okay, you can also benchmark against other strategies. Here's one that used to be popular. Actually, let's use this. This was my 2019 pick. Okay, so I chose this strategy at the very end of 2018, and for the most part, this is what I followed in 2019. Personally, I'm sorry, that's the wrong spot. I want to benchmark by ID, so I'm going to type 57805 right in there. That was my 2019 pick. Click submit, and now that is also a benchmark. So now see here with the 3 check boxes, we're benchmarking C, S, and I, and then I typed in this ID that I want to benchmark. So that's 57805. So now I can see all those monthly stats. I can see 57805's monthly stats, and then when I scroll down again, all 5 of those are on the graph. So there's 57805, which was in the lead, above, what strategy number is that? Above 86104, which is what I'm going to use for 2020. There's year to date, and there's all. Wow, that really pulled away. 57805 has done well. And so there's the trading calendar for 86104. Again, that's this one. That's the far left. It's always the far left strategy. So if I, from this screen, if I decide I want the trading calendar for 57805, what I have to do is enter that here to make that the loaded calculator. So now 57805 is loaded in here. And then I can scroll down, and now it'll show me the trading calendar for 57805, and I can print that out. Okay, so say I like this strategy, and I would like to receive email and SMS alerts. Well, there's this fancy button here. It says add to watch list, so I can add that one and say I want an email alert, and so I click add to watch list. Okay, and this is going to take me to my account page. And here we are. So 57805 has now been added to my watch list. And this is some statistics here. And I can change the year range of those statistics by changing these and clicking update. So if I want to look at statistics through 2010, click update. Now it's showing me those statistics. This strategy makes 24 IFTs a year. It spends this amount of time in those funds. It spends 100% of its time in the three stock funds, and I'm currently set up to receive email alerts. So strategy 57805, its next IFT is over here. Its next IFT is January 8th, and it's moving to the I fund. Okay, so I can see that right here in my watch list. I can add notes. Great strategy. Next trade looking good. And I can, and then say, oh, you know what? I would really like to receive a text alert of this too. So I click SMS alert, and in order to save the notes and the SMS alert, I need to click the update button. Okay, now all that is saved. So my trade is due on January 8th. And this little dialog down here tells me when I'm going to receive that alert. Now, this starts at 24 hours before the deadline. And I said before, IFT deadlines are noon Eastern time. Okay? I happen to be in the Pacific time zone. So 24 hours before deadline is 12 p.m. 12 p.m. noon Eastern time, which is equivalent to 9 a.m. Pacific time. All right? And I can go later than that. 24 hours is the earliest that TSP Calc will send you an alert, but you can get it in 15-minute increments up to whenever you want. Say I have a morning meeting at 9 a.m. all the time. Maybe I want my alert to come at 3 p.m. local time, so I would just scroll down and again click update, and now my text and my email will come at 3 p.m. local time, which is still 18 hours before the IFT deadline. It's important to note that see here, I don't have an SMS number in there. So even though I check the SMS alert box, it's not going to text me because it doesn't know what my phone number is. You have to click change, a pop-up box will show up, you enter your phone number, and then you enter your password and you click send, and it'll send a text to your phone, and on the very next screen it'll ask you what your verification code is. You type that in, and then your phone number will be added and verified, and therefore you can receive SMS alerts. So going back to the seasonal calculator, so I've got that strategy on my watch list. Yeah, let's take a look at the seasonal strategies table. So like I said earlier, Every time you run this, it takes this unique combination of trades and it puts them in the database. And if they already exist, then it just pulls that strategy number. If it doesn't exist, then it makes a new entry in the database and a new strategy number is generated. So this is very much a, the users have built this database. I cannot run it with a computer. And the reason for that is that, believe it or not, there are 10 to the 24 different ways of inputting this one form. So brute force speaking, brute force meaning I would solve all 10 to the 24 possibilities, is literally impossible to do. It would take me like over 100 years to calculate that. Way over 100 years. So it's impossible for me to do that. I would have to make some assumptions and abandon a lot of things. But anyway, so this table is a peek at what is in the database. So right now there are 80,022 strategies in the database, and this is a snapshot of them. So this table is limited to, I think, it's limited to showing you 100 different values, but you get to say what you want to pull from the database. So it's by default, it's going to show you the full available year range, and it's going to sort by mean descending, which means that the highest mean first. If you look here, you'll see 37.3, and it's going down. So this row here is literally the highest mean 2004 to 2019. Not the highest mean that's possible necessarily, because, like I said, it's impossible for me to solve every possible strategy. This is the highest mean of any strategy that has ever been entered on TSP Calc. And right now there's 80,022 of them. Okay, so I could click on this strategy and it'll load it up into the calculator. And if I scroll down, there it is. All right, so let's say I like this one too. I'm going to add that to watch list. Now I have two strategies on my watch list. Okay, say I'm playing around, I want to see this strategy and I want to compare what's already on my watch list to this one. Well, again, you could type in the IDs here, or you can click this little button and there's your watch list. So I want to select both of those. We're going to click add to benchmarks, and all it does is it pre-fills this for you, and then you can click submit. And now we're looking at 3 different strategies all at the same time, and then I can compare those here in the table and here in the graph. Pretty cool. Now, how do I sort and filter? What does this button do? Well, you can change the year range. By default, it's showing you the statistics for the entire year range. You can see here it says 2004 through 2019 statistics. Well, if you don't care, for instance, what happened before 2010, then you could change it to 2010 through 2019 statistics. Again, sorting by mean descending. So what this is going to show you is, well, this is the highest mean of any strategy in the database on a 2010 to 2019 basis. So it's 40.78. You click on that and you scroll down and look, it is 40.78. There it is. And again, this updates immediately. So if you want to show what happened 2004 to 2010, just change the start year and it'll show you those rows as well. Here you can sort by many different things. You can sort by the total. So say you wanted to say, like, well, what's the highest return strategy that has been calculated from 2010 through 2019? That's this one. It has returned a total of 2,788.5%. You could sort by ascending. I don't know why you would want to do that, but show me the strategy that has returned the lowest amount. Well, this one has returned negative 70% total in the last 10 years. That's horrible. You can also play with numbers down here. So let me update that really quick. So let's say I want a standard deviation. Yeah, so these are great. That has the highest total, right? But what if I want to lower standard deviation? See, there's one with 11.98, and that one's up there. What if I say, see how this is kind of grading with max? What if I type in 10 right there? Sort and filter. So now it's going to show me strategies that have a standard deviation of less than 10%. That is the base criteria for a strategy to be shown in the table. And then all strategies with standard deviations under 10, now it's going to sort by total descending. So this is the highest total compound return, 2010 to 2019, for all strategies that have less than 10%. So I'm going to clear that out real quick, refresh this. Now I want to, if you say, well, I don't want to make that many IFTs, you can type in here, I only want to make 10 IFTs. It'll show you, okay, here's everything with 10 or less IFTs. Again, still sorted by total descending. You can change that back to mean if you want. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm saying, well, the iFund index is going to change sometime in 2020, so I don't want to spend any of my time in the iFund. So therefore, the max, you see how that max is grading? The max amount of time I want to spend in the iFund is 0. And if you put a 0 there and click sort and filter, it only returns strategies that have 0 time in the iFund. And if you're like me, you don't like the FFund either, so you put a 0 there. Sort and filter. Okay, now look, 0F and 0I, and we are looking at strategies sorted by mean descending. So the highest mean for 2010 through 2019 is this strategy, 45617. If I wanted to see all available data years, then the highest mean is 47828 with 0F and 0I. And that's it. That is the gist of the seasonal calculator. There's some other benchmarks here. These 4 are from the seasonal strategies threads over at tspcenter.com, which is a forum. This right here is a 2020 beer bet between myself and the 3 other Facebook admins. I'm going to win because I do. And so there's the 4 of us, and you can check those 4 boxes so that you can compare your own strategy against the 4 of us throughout 2020. So when you go down to the results table, there we are. Matt, Sharon, Travis, and Larry. There's our 4 picks for 2020. And there's the strategies on your watch list that you're benchmarking. You can remove those here if you want. And that's it. That is the seasonal calculator. Oh, one final feature at the very bottom is called Trading Day Comparison, and that lets you see these strategies and their trades side by side. So 79,530 starts the year out in the G Fund. It's going to make a trade on the 2nd trading day to the S Fund, and then make a trade on the 5th trading day into, I believe that's the I Fund. Yeah, so here's the legend in the lower right corner. Into the iFund, and then 3 days before end of month, 3 EM, it's going to trade back to the G Fund. Then it'll be in the G Fund. So you can see all those trades, and they're stacked right against these 4 benchmark strategies, and that will show up for whatever your benchmarks are. It just so happens that right now my benchmarks are the 4 beer bet strategies. Down here at the very bottom, it tells you when the data was last updated, which is December 20th, 2019. And this updates itself every day after the TSP posts share prices on their website. Well, that's the gist of it. Thanks for watching. I hope you like tspcalc.com, and feel free to comment.